Hello, Susan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jenny?
I'm excellent. I'm so glad to have you here and welcome listeners. It's great to have you here as well. My name is Jenny and I am the CEO for Overdose Americas. And I am joined here today with Susan Beermann, who is the Chief Marketing Officer from Contentstack. Welcome, Susan. Before we get started, I have a couple of quick housekeeping items to cover. The first, and I'm going to read it because I always leave one off, is we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. This is also our 141st episode of OD and Chill, which is exciting. And for those listening, if at any point during our conversation today, if there's any questions or areas of the conversation you'd like us to dig deeper in, please just enter them into chat. And we will address those as they come in. But without further ado, I think we should jump right in. Susan, I'm so glad to be here with you. And I thought a great place to start would simply be for you to give a little bit of a background on who you are, your career, and what also brought you to Contentstack.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny, for having me. It's just a pleasure to be here with you today. And, you know, our companies are close partners and really appreciate the collaboration. Hi, everybody. I am Susan Beermann, the Chief Marketing Officer of Contentstack. My career, let's see, I'll keep it short, but my whole career has been really in technology marketing. I started out in sales actually, but for the most part, I've been in marketing for most of my career for technology companies. And I'm currently a third-time CMO, joined Contentstack in December of last year. So relatively new, not even quite a year yet. But it was really a tremendous opportunity that presented itself, and the stars and moons aligned. So I joined the team a few months back. What attracted me to Contentstack was, well, first of all, I was a former customer. So, and Contentstack solves a very real problem that, my team and our company had in terms of, getting content developed and on the website and enabling people to do that easily without involving heavy duty developer cycles, et cetera. So that's when I first became familiar with it. Of course, the company has grown and evolved. Their technology has evolved dramatically since that experience. And then there was an opportunity to join the company as the Chief Marketing Officer. And I was just so excited to be a part of it. It's just really an exciting space to be part of, helping customers on their digital transformation journeys and enabling them to really create amazing digital experiences for all their audiences across all channels. And we partner with a whole bunch of companies to provide e-commerce capabilities and services and support, et cetera. So it's just a really fabulous company and a fabulous opportunity.
Awesome. Well, we are thrilled to partner with Contentstack, and it's great to be here with you on this call. I would love to hear, I know you had shared with me when we were chatting last week about, being a former a customer of Contentstack. I imagine you can speak from your own personal experience of pain points that you experienced as on the other side of the table, so to speak. So it would be great just to, especially for anyone who's new on the call, either to e-commerce or to Contentstack, to just maybe go in a little bit deeper in terms of what Contentstack is, what we can, what you offer to merchants and how that works.
Yeah. So we offer a software platform is, in a simplest form that helps with those digital experience creation and delivery. So at the heart of our solution is, you'll hear the term headless CMS, and I know you and I will talk a little bit about that today.
Yep.
But that's really the heart of our offering. And that's where we got started. And so if you think about any digital experience, whether you're on an app or you're on a website, an electronic billboard, a kiosk, or whatever, there's content being served up there. And so that content needs to be created and eventually be delivered to all those various different digital devices. So we make that really easy for customers, and we help them save time and money in terms of their development time from a developer perspective, a technical developer perspective, as well as the content generators in order to enable them to create that content and get it out there. And I think that what we're seeing is our customers are having really strong results with that in terms of having it help lead their digital transformation, power their digital initiatives, and deliver, a really strong return on investment. And at the end of the day, a great digital experience to their customers.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned a phrase, and I think this is a great time to address it, is headless, right? As it relates to a content management system, or also known as a CMS. I would love if you could, and it's so funny because I know we both have careers in marketing. If you could define how you would differentiate between what would be considered a traditional CMS compared to a headless, what that means to you.
Yeah, I think, the way I think about it is traditionally a CMS was sort of an all-in-one suite and everything was really tightly integrated, which sounds like a really, really great idea. And that's what we all had, and there's many legacy systems out there, and, a lot of customers are still on them and they've invested a lot in them. But what headless technology, and we'll talk about composable as well, is a new way of thinking about it and a new approach to have a modern digital experience and build it and deliver it. So it really helps to decouple the front end from the back end, for example. So you can generate the content once and then through APIs, publish it to these different digital devices and form factors, websites, mobile apps.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so it really cuts down on that content development time. It cuts down on the programming time, the developer time to make that work like it did with the monolithic, legacy types of systems. So, in fact, I was just talking to a Gartner analyst the other day, and, I'm saying, like, are people, what's your inquiries like for CMS versus headless versus composable, right? And they're saying that, they're seeing more and more inquiries and requests from customers who are our buyers on, we want to go headless. How do we do that? And eventually we want to go fully composable, which kind of is a follow-on from headless in terms of putting together components from different partners, different providers in the way that best suits your business. So it gives a lot of flexibility. Yeah. And it definitely improves the company's ability to deliver amazing digital experiences at scale more quickly. They can enter new markets. They can take advantage of opportunities and differentiate themselves from the competition.
That's great. And, it's so funny because over the last few days, I've been thinking a lot of my past working for a brand where we had a very traditional CMS. And it was funny because I was thinking back to how it was going when I was there, and that's what we had. And my first thought was, well, yeah, it worked pretty good. But then I was like, yeah, it worked good because it was all we had, right? And I was like, I think I was talking to a friend and I was like, yeah, we made it work. And it's like, yeah, but that's, you don't want to have to make it work, right? Like you want it to work really well. And like you said, have it be seamless, have content being created and distributed quicker, and it just gains some efficiencies, right? Which is so funny because now I reflect back to even, the reality even 5 years ago was just different. You know what I mean? Let alone 20 years, right? So
right, yeah. And sometimes you don't know what's possible until someone shows you. So I think all of us, your company, my company, and a whole bunch of others who are touting the composable / headless. We're educating the market right now because it is a different way of thinking about things. And I think there's momentum for sure behind it. I see more and more, large enterprises adopting our technologies. I'm sure you're seeing the same with your business, Jenny. Yeah. And I think we're just, kind of at the beginning, and it's going to continue to evolve. And it's just a super exciting place to be for not only companies like ours, but for the brands who really want to do great things and not be shackled by old tech.
Yeah. And I think you're so right that a big part of it is exposure to what is out there as a possibility. And, sessions like this are great as, quite frankly, even an education tool, right? But But I know you mentioned earlier the phrase digital transformation, right? And that's something that we're definitely talking about clearly. But for anyone new to that phrase, I'd be curious what you would define digital transformation as.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at its simplest form, it's a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Digital first transformation is a digital strategy that embraces digital interactions as a primary means of interacting with your
Mm-hmm.
audiences. And if you think about it, like statistically, at least 70% of people will research things online before they ever want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So and if you don't have a great digital experience, you're going to miss out on that, and others will pass you by. So,
Yeah.
and if you think, and I think it was also accelerated during the pandemic, right? You
Mm-hmm.
couldn't go into a store other than a grocery store to buy what you needed. So we all had to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been an online shopper for a long time, but I certainly am way more of one today than I was pre-pandemic. So,
Yeah.
and Amazon really, grew as a business as a result, and they created a lot of competition that other, online e-commerce companies, retailers had to figure out how to adapt and, and keep up or bypass, right, or be left behind. And, we did see businesses go out
Yeah.
of business because they weren't able to really shift to digital
Mm-hmm.
properly. And so I think that I know for me, if I honestly, I love people, but when it comes to customer service, I hate calling a customer service line.
Yeah.
I want to be able to handle everything digitally. And I will choose who I shop with, or, who I whatever,
Yeah.
based on a better experience online than
Mm-hmm.
somebody who maybe they're wonderful when you get them on the phone, if you get them on the phone. And, I don't think I'm in a minority necessarily. I'm sure there's certain people who would disagree with me, and that's fine. But I just think that we're all becoming so adept at, figuring things out, self-service, digital, find what I want easily, buy it,
Yeah.
return it,
Yeah.
have an issue, deal with it, in a digital way.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I mean, that's a good segue into omni-channel, right? Like I was reading on the content stack site actually, I think on your blog, and I actually printed it out because I was like, wow, I was like, this is fascinating, and it was saying that, quote, we're living in an omni-channel world where 45% of consumers watch television while they browse social media, switch between their phones and laptop while shopping online. And I was like, I
Sounds like
totally.
my
Well, I
household.
was gonna say,
Yours.
yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. I totally do that. But then I was like, well, then it goes on to say, or then you tack on, then you go into a brick and mortar shop, and then while you're there, you're pulling out your phone to look at reviews or check price checking at other merchants. It's like there's so many access points that brands and merchants can have with their customers, right? That, to your point, it's like it comes down to like really making sure that you're keeping an eye on like how you can best reach your potential clients or your customers. But yeah, that statement though, I was like, wow, that is spot on.
Yeah, I mean, and the good news is that there's been so many great technological advancements that make all of this possible. And so I think if you have the right strategy, the right mindset,
Yeah.
the right people on your team, the right partners, you can get from point A to point B,
Yeah.
with the great technologies and support out there.
Yeah. What would you say, as it relates to digital transformation, like, are there any trends that you're really seeing, noticing, hearing more so than others?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've hit on a few of those. So, right,
Yeah.
our expectations are pretty
Yeah.
darn high for
Yeah.
digital right now. And so I think, some companies are playing catch up, others are leapfrogging ahead, and who knows
Yeah.
where they're going to take it next. It's going to be really exciting to see. And so I think that there's, just the consumer demands it, right? They're
Yeah.
not going to tolerate a crappy online experience. They will vote with
Yeah.
their feet and they'll go elsewhere. and I think that that's, competitive pressures too, where the pandemic probably accelerated a lot of this just because people had to figure out quickly how to compete online and be able to still, move their goods and move their goods and services, via electronic means. I think we're always, particularly in a tough market like right now, who's not looking for ways to increase efficiencies and cut their costs? So
yeah,
how can we evolve, and look out for the bottom line of our businesses, growing the top line and reducing costs. So the two together makes a really beautiful bottom line. And then I think a last thing is, if they want to, launch something and get to market quickly, it's a way to get there, and not be mired down in something that's very, hard to change and hard to adapt. So I think that's another trend that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking to companies every day.
Totally. And I would say the one thing that is top of the list that I hear and see, and I know folks on my team also hear and see from people daily, is just the constant desire to see more ROI, earlier in the process, right? So meaning, like, especially as you just spoke to, like, reducing costs, but increasing efficiencies, is really making sure that investments that merchants are making they're going to see a return on it, and it's not going to take 3 years to see the return, right? So I'm curious if you can speak to that a little bit as it relates to, let's say, merchants who implement a headless CMS. Like, what type of ROI are those folks seeing?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that two ways. One is, I think, when people are getting started out, or brands are getting started out, what I often see is I'll first start with a proof of concept, right? Because it's a big decision, ultimately it's a big investment to switch out your tech and take a different approach. And so I think, more and more I see customers doing a proof of concept, and that way they can get their hands dirty, they can build, a proof of concept, and then they can see for themselves and then demonstrate to whoever in the company is approving the checks, right, and signs the checks, that yes, this is not just, a crazy idea. This is really real, and here's what we're seeing in that. And then from an ROI perspective, actually, if you all go onto our website and do a search for Forrester TEI, we did a study, or Forrester did an independent study amongst our customers to figure out what's the average ROI across our customers, and it was like 295%. Looking at a 3-year time, which is a little bit longer than what you're suggesting. And that's not to say that they didn't get anything in year 1 and year 2, but that's just kind of their model.
Yeah.
And it was really from 3 areas. One, it was like cutting down on the time it takes to create content and get it out there.
Yep.
The content marketers, or your product people, your product catwalks, etc. It was reduction in developer time, so they're not having to code every time you change content.
Yeah.
Focusing on doing really cool new features. And third is increasing their profitability. So I think that there's, in throughout our website and talking to our customers, time and time again, you'll hear similar themes. Some people may have a little bit different bent, and they'll get some more ROI in different areas, but I think that's pretty darn consistent across the board.
It's so funny what you were just saying about just the ease of developing content and then getting it online. I think back to just my own experience where I have like nightmares about this, where it was like, on the marketing side, we developed this amazing content, but then the developers they sat completely separately, and there wasn't much integration. Therefore, it was kind of like we had a content calendar, but the development team or the IT team had their own calendar and list of priorities. And it just became, all of a sudden, it was like the brakes just kept getting hit in terms of getting something launched. You know what I mean? And in some cases, if it's incredibly timely content, you miss the window altogether. right?
I mean, and that's what compelled me, initially to become a customer, because
Yeah,
in our case it was B2B, so it wasn't e-commerce, you guys.
sure.
But go with me here a little bit. But we had a whole education team that was developing courses that got changed all the time, and they didn't want to have to wait 2 months for the web developer
Yeah.
to update their content, because it's like fresh. We want to get it in front of our customers right away.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's 80 other use cases of what we did there. And then
Yeah.
the development team was just as frustrated too, because they're like, it
Sure.
wasn't really sexy work. It wasn't exciting
Yep.
or innovative. They wanted to focus on developing cool features
Yeah.
for the site, and or a mobile app or whatever. And and I think that once we got this, everybody was happy. And I actually just did a quarterly business review with my leadership team, and we we've empowered all of them, of course, to use drink our own champagne and use
Yeah.
our content management system, and they just love how they have the freedom to go in and update stuff without having to be reliant on somebody else, because it's easy enough to do. And
Yeah.
we have enough guardrails around it so no one can break anything.
Yep.
But everyone's happy and everything moves a lot faster.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. And it's kind of awesome to hear it's like you're drinking your own Kool-Aid, right? Like you're using the tool that you're all advocating for, right?
Right.
So you brought up a term earlier that I think would be great to talk a little bit more about, and that is composable, and how that is different than headless. And if you could speak to that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm not a super technical person, guys, but so for those of you who aren't, I'll break it down for you in layman's terms, I hope. But I think of headless as you're decoupling that sort of front end presentation layer from the back end. In this case, it could be a commerce engine, or it could be a content management system, like in our company. And that's what headless is. So we basically started there. Where you get to composable is you think about all the different features and functions in your digital experience world. You've got an e-commerce engine, and you've got maybe personalization, you've got A/B testing, you've got localization. They are all companies who offer these components, and they're able to talk to each other through open APIs. And so it makes it very easy for you to decide. It's like, I don't know if you're into cycling, but most avid cyclists, they don't just go buy what's on the rack. They buy a frame, and then they buy different tires and different
pedals,
whatever, and they compose the perfect bike for their build, their body, the way they like the bike to feel. It's the same thing. I mean, each company, I would argue, is unique. They're going to have different requirements. They're going to have different priorities. They're going to have different demands from their customers, or internal or external.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to have the flexibility to build their stack their way, their bike their way, and get something that's very bespoke and customized and differentiated for them.
Yeah.
And then if a component, like, oh, there's new wheels that came out that are better, I can
switch them out.
And I'm not going to break the bike, right? It's just a matter of swapping one in without, for the other. So
yeah, that is honestly maybe the best way to describe composable I've heard.
And I didn't even think of that till just now. That's so funny. Thank you, God.
Yeah. It's like when the pressure's on, you deliver. But
I didn't practice that. It came to me out of nowhere. I'm glad it worked.
But it's such a good point, because it's like, when you do think about it, it's like you want the right solution for the right problems, right? And it's like, by being able to swap in and out certain tools, that just makes it such a powerful customer experience, right? By being able to really tailor it to the people who you hope are visiting your site or your store or online shopping, etc. In the conversations that the team at Contentstack has been having, would you do you think that there's more of a trend one way or another in going headless versus composable, or do you think it's just kind of, it differs every client you talk to?
I think it's an evolution. I mean, I think it started maybe with headless and
Mhm.
then it's grown into composable.
Yeah,
And so I think that I mean, we say we're composable and we're headless. So
right.
I mean, we probably use those terms more interchangeably than a purist would like. But
Yeah.
we have a headless CMS at the core of what we do. We also offer additional components. And then we, of course, plug in with components through, the mock ecosystem or our partner ecosystem, et cetera. They're listed in our marketplace on our website. And
Mhm.
so enabling people to, they can choose additional components from us or they
Yeah.
can use, from whoever. We're agnostic. We don't really care. We just want to be able to give customers the ultimate in choice and again let them build what's really best for their business.
That's great. Yeah, I know when I think of composable and how we've described it on our team,
Yeah,
similar to the bike analogy, it's more of like a kind of like a fully loaded cheeseburger with all of the different, the tomato, the lettuce, you
yeah.
name it. But it's like you get what you want when you want it. Looks like we have a question coming in from Aaron. So let's see. Speaking of headless and composable commerce, is Contentstack planning to support or integrate into Hydrogen or Shopify? Would love to learn more.
I don't know the answer to that, but if you drop me a LinkedIn message, I will be happy to follow up with you and give you an answer.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Keep them coming, Aaron.
Yeah.
um, let's see. Oh, yes. Andrea commenting here that you also love the analogy. I agree. It's super helpful. Like, I'm going to start using it actually.
Feel free. No pride of authorship
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, we don't have to pay you royalties. Something else that I know we've been hearing a lot more frequently that I would love your thoughts on is the term content as a service. So can you speak to that a little bit and what that means to you or Contentstack?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really is, it's really another way of saying headless, right? In the case of content
Mhm.
as a service, right? Our
Mhm.
headless CMS is basically a content as a service. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't necessarily call it that, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a term that's out there that I think is very appropriate. So it's just like, okay, I can create this content and then I can serve it up as a
Yeah.
service through
Yeah.
APIs to all these various different, applications or devices or whatever. So I
Yeah.
think that that's really a cool term and, really fits in with headless CMS very, very nicely.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I was going to comment back on something you said earlier about, I was just thinking of back to ROI is, and you mentioned, was it 295? Is that what you said? 295%, which was listed in was it a Gartner study or, yeah,
Forrester, yeah.
Forrester, excuse me. Um, it's funny when I think to like all of the vocabulary that's out there, like content as a service, headless, composable, it is interesting to see that the ROI, I mean, that is sizable for what I think you said was a 3-year time period, right?
Right.
It is amazing, not only for the ROI, but I wonder, was there any additional, and this, I might be putting you back on your feet because I'm going to ask you a data question was there any other metrics around like the, like the speed to getting things on, like published or you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there was very specific things, and I should have memorized them, but I haven't. But it had to do with reducing content creation and publishing times, and it had to
Got
do
it.
with reducing the developer times, and then it just had to do with overall efficiencies. Were kind
Perfect.
of the three main vectors,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more details there. I don't know if you have
Sure.
the ability to follow up with people and send them a link to it, but
Oh,
I think it's great because it's an independent third party, research
yeah.
effort, and of course, many of our customers, because we sell mostly to very large enterprises, they're going to want to do an ROI themselves. And
Yeah.
so, everybody's going to have a little bit different approach. And, we've enabled them with some tools, et cetera, to be able to predict what their ROI is. But of course,
Yeah.
they're going to want to prove that eventually with, after the fact to make sure it lived up to, the dream.
Yeah, that's great. And to your point, if anyone listening does want to have access, like please feel free to either message myself or Susan in LinkedIn, and we can, I'm sure, send the link based on what you just said. But that would be amazing. So I wonder, what do you think is the most, or 1 to 3 or however many most important things to consider when a merchant is searching for a new CMS? Like, let's say they've been on a traditional CMS for ever, and they're looking to make the shift. Like, what do you think would be the most important things for them to consider as they're looking to invest and switch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with what is it you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
What is your digital vision? What is your strategy? Is it core to your business, or is it like this is a little side project? I would argue if you're in commerce, it's going to be pretty darn core to your business. And so, and so it's like really starts with what's the business objectives? What is it you're going to want to accomplish? And what are your priorities? What are your non-negotiables, right? You know, like I don't want to do business with a company that's whatever in a market that I don't agree with, or politics.
Sure.
I don't want to talk politics, but that's just an example. But there could be very non-negotiables for you. They have to have a global presence. They have to have XYZ. And I think just really having really solid requirements, and then reaching out to the companies that seem to, from your basic research, that's probably going to be online, that seem to fit, and talk to a bunch of them. Of course, we want you to just call us first, but we realize that's not the way. That's not the way I acquire solutions and software. I certainly don't expect that our customers do that as well. So, shop around and get down to who you think is your vendor of choice, based on that very clear criteria, et cetera. And then, maybe do a proof of concept just to make sure before you go far that, it is real. And you can see a path to doing what you set out to achieve with that partner or set of partners.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I wonder if in your experience or your team's experience and what they're hearing from, the conversations they're having with people who are looking into a CMS. I wonder, and I, again, think back just to my own career. It's like a lot of what in some cases helps define the priorities and the non-negotiables are sometimes, unfortunately, but also fortunately, based on pain points that the team lives and breathes on a daily basis, right? And what's interesting is, the pain points change over the period of time. So I wonder, I don't know if you've heard any themes similar to that. I have a feeling that's probably the case, but, and your own career and firsthand experience, I'm sure you've probably also seen the pain points pop up and become the kind of the dragon that won't leave the room. And that's probably what helps define the strategy and the goals. But
I think you're right. I think there's maybe two vectors, which is one is like, what problem are you trying to solve? Right.
Yeah.
Usually born from a pain point. Our company was created to pain points that our co-founders felt because they were, they had a services business where they were building digital experiences for big brands.
Right.
And they felt so constrained by the technologies that existed at the time that they created, a headless CMS. So I think it's, what are those pain points that are, that are really holding you back? And then on the flip side, maybe it's like, what is the opportunity that I feel I can seize if I make this investment in technology? So I think there's really sides to the coin depending on where you sit.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Well, let's see. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else we originally chatted about that we want to dig in deeper about, or if there's anything you feel like we haven't talked about that we should.
I thought it would make sense for us and I to talk a little bit about AI and
perfect.
How it's really changing our work and our world and and our technologies, of course, technology. And it's funny because I mean, I've been in tech for a long time, and we've been talking about AI for a long time. But by golly, it's finally hit this year in a big way, and it is becoming really real, for mainstream anyway. And we have embraced it as a company in terms of integrating generative AI into our content management system and some of our other components. And I think we're just at the beginning here. And I know as a marketer, a leader of a marketing team, we're leaning into AI to figure out how can we improve the velocity of content we create without adding a whole bunch of writers.
Yeah.
And I think there's also some advances, really great advances being made in generating images using AI. And then, thirdly, it's not just generating content, images, or whatever. It's how do we automate processes, right?
Yeah.
So our team is using our products to automate just some simple processes today, like, okay, I'm in a Slack channel and I want to be notified every time there's a new web page or something changes. Well, you can automate that, right? So that you tell the content management system when something changes, send a Slack message to this particular channel. That's a very basic example.
Yeah.
But we're a global company. I'm sure many of our listeners are as well, and so you need to localize your website into the various languages. There's some really great AI tools to help you do that. Now, you're still going to probably have to have a human to review it. I don't think we're there yet, but it sure does cut down a heck of a lot of time. So we just on the French and German site, we used a partner that uses AI, and it compared to my last CMO role, where it would take us months just to generate a new site in a different language, a locale. This was really literally within a quarter.
Wow. I mean, just speed alone, right? It's just so amazing what you can gain. And it's funny, based on the comment you made at the top of the call around, like, when it comes to digital transformation, headless, composable, like, we're still on the very front end of, and AI is a perfect example of really in a learning period, right? Where it is like, how powerful is this tool? And people kind of I would say AI specifically is that you build the plane as you fly it, kind of see what we can, how can companies or merchants leverage AI? I think what you just described is a great example of even just cutting down the time to launch an international site. I mean, there's so many factors to AI that I can't even honestly speak to.
I know, and
but
I think if you and I are having this conversation a year from now, the dialogue will be radically different, because I just think it's evolving so quickly. And of course, there's the downsides to it as well. And, there's likely going to be more regulation around it, which is probably a good thing. And, I think, we have a customer advisory board, and we got together a few months ago, and I asked of them, like, okay, where are you on the AI spectrum? Like, and in this dozen of, strategic brands that are sitting around the table, it was from, we're not allowed to even log into it on the corporate network. It's completely banned, to, hey, we have this web tool today that asks you a bunch of questions, and then it recommends the product to you. So basically, she was saying she was basically scrapping that, and they're going to just be able to use AI, so you can just say in your own words what you're looking for, and it will go find the product for you.
Sure.
And so that's a much better user experience, right? Because you're using your own words and not being constrained by a checkbox or whatever pull down menu. And so I think what I think most companies are doing is experimenting and figuring out how does it work for them within within some guardrails, of course.
Sure. And a lot of it too, I feel like conversations I've had, it echoes what you were just saying, in that there's varying levels of comfortability with it too, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's like, until you know more, or people become a bit more comfortable, it'll be interesting just to kind of see how that takes shape, and how companies or brands tend to, or will leverage AI. It'll be fun to watch. And honestly, Susan, maybe that can be our topic for a year from now.
Yeah, it'll be,
right.
I personally, I think my whole career I've been just drawn to new technologies.
Yeah.
Sort of guided where I went first, second, and third. And
right.
this is, you know, I was excited about, you know, digital transformation and why I came to Contentstack.
Yeah.
And AI hit the scene, and like, there's so many amazingly new, cool things that we can do now.
Yeah.
And you know, in fact, we're having an internal AI hackathon where we're just asking the employees, like, come up with crazy ideas and
fun.
Go experiment with AI and see what you
Yeah.
can come up with. And you know, I think that that's a way for some companies to get their toe in the water, is to, you know, experiment with some things and
Yeah.
figure out what's going to work for your business, and
Yep.
you know, that fits within your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Well, why don't I realize we're almost out of time. So I will remind everyone on the call, if there's any questions, please put them into chat. And while you're doing that, if you're doing that, a final question I have, Susan, which I think is, I love asking this question, honestly, to anybody I have these sessions with, is making sure that, like, if there's one thing about this conversation today, whether it be around digital transformation, content stack, composable, headless, you know, all of the topics, if there's one thing you hope these listeners today walk away from this experience having gained, what would that be?
I think it's that there is a new and better way to approach digital.
Mm-hmm.
There are tons of resources out there to educate yourself. So, you know, again, thank you for inviting me. I think this is a, you know, one opportunity. You know, on our website, under our resource section, we have a ton of resources. They're not trying to sell you anything, but educate you on what is headless, what is composable.
Yeah.
There's a Go composable microsite within the website under resources as well, that, you know, there's a series of videos and white papers, etc., podcasts to explore things, whether you're a developer or whether you're a more on the business side, a marketer or product management person or an executive, and figure out, like, you know, educate yourself on what this is and what the power may be, and if it fits within your business. And
yeah,
you know, we would of course love to talk to you about it. I know Jenny would love to talk to you about it as well, and you know, grow together with composable.
Yeah, and I have to say that learning is the fun part, in my opinion, right? Where it's like, and I have to give you all credit, because I was combing through your website and learning a ton on it based on, like, all you said, like everything you just described. There's a lot of really good nuggets out there that I agree with you that they're not biased one way or another. It's purely just giving you the tools, right, to make the best decision given the circumstances or the scenarios that your business is in, and really arming you with the knowledge to make the right decision. So yeah, I know I personally benefited from the Contentstack site. so thanks to your team.
I will, yeah, let the team know that. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
We're constantly adding to it and evolving it to make it better and better. And you know, the Mock Alliance, MACH alliance.org is also a really great resource.
Yeah.
Lots of educational, you know, it's a completely independent third party. We're a founding member of it, along with a whole bunch of other companies who are members, who are, you know, really looking at this whole composable trend and helping to educate the market. I just came back in early summer from their conference that was in Amsterdam, and I learned so much.
Oh, I bet.
You know, met customers and other partners, etc. It was a really good experience.
Oh, that's great. Well, this has been great, Susan. I have really valued this conversation, and it's been so wonderful just being able to spend this last almost hour together. I look forward to hopefully doing another one of these sessions with you in the future. I feel like we could talk for hours.
One of these days we need to do it in person.
I know.
A glass of wine or coffee.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know our listeners also have likely taken a ton out of this conversation. So thank you so much for making the time. And I look forward to continuing to work together.
Great. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yep. Likewise. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Bye.